Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joe Salemi with DynaSCAPE Software. Also have one of DynaSCAPE's great implementation and training specialists on the line with us, Fabio Ronconi. Fabio, you here with us?
Yep, thanks. Hi, Joe. Hi,
Hey,
guys.
thanks for joining us. So this is the first in the masterclass series to help all Manage360 clients get the most out of their landscape business operating system. And this is a 17-week series of webinars titled the Masterclass, and we're going to go through everything from budgeting, updating your cost book, all the way down the line, so that you can either get a refresher in how everything works inside of Manage360 and get a really deep dive into being able to level up your skill in how everything works. Now, we do have a Q&A option, and we will be addressing some questions later on in the webinar. So if you do have questions, there's a Q&A tab. Just open up that and type your questions in there. We'd be more than happy to take a look at your questions and do our best to provide some answers for you. In this session, our very first webinar here, we're going to be talking about updating your budget and your cost book and the process of that and how that all works. And so the idea here is to be able to help you get ready for the season using Manage360. In this session, we're going to do a complete review of the budget, the numbers, and how they all add up, and how to best update them, along with some of the best practices on keeping your cost book up to date. But first, a little bit about the process of budgeting, and it's something that you should go through at the end of your season and the ramp up to your upcoming season. You want to review past performance. You want to assess all of your opportunities and threats. You want to be able to unpack the successes and failures over the past year, what worked, what didn't work. Review key objectives. Why are you doing what you're doing? What do you want to be able to achieve in the upcoming season? And then identify and refine the resource implications of your plan. So if you're planning on growing your divisions, you're planning on adding some work, then you absolutely want to be able to plan for resources. If you need to bring on additional team members, additional equipment, then you want to be able to understand the implications of those plans. And then fine-tune, review, fine-tune, review. It takes several iterations to go through the process of your budgeting, come up with a final budget, especially when it comes to revenue projections and that kind of thing. So definitely don't feel that it's a process where you kind of come up with a number and then you're done with it. Definitely iterate on those drafts. So I think now's a great time where we can start to dive in. Fabio, I'm going to hand it over to you, and love for you to take us through the process of working through a budget, getting it up to date, and updating our cost book.
All right, thanks, Joe. Let's get my screen going over here as well. I can see it on there. So welcome, guys, again. Like Joe, so we're going to kind of go over the budget, like updating. In here, we're going to focus on a couple main parts. We're going to kind of go over the budget and the cost book updating. We're going to start in the budgeting section itself, like in Manage. How do I update? Best way to update. Some best practices around the updating process. We'll take a look. Let's kind of look at that spreadsheet again that some of you may have, or like again, it's a spreadsheet that we usually send out during the implementations. If you guys don't have that spreadsheet anymore, or it's been a while and you can't find it, or whatever, I think what we're going to do as well is post that, post a link to download it after, again, once the session gets recorded, and Joe will put it available. So if you guys need to download that, you can as well if you don't have the copy previously. So we're going to go look at that. Then we're going to go, once we get the budget, then we're going to go into the cost book component and kind of look at ways to update the cost book. The direct updates, plus we're going to look at the bulk update process and kind of some best practices around that. So what I'm going to do as well is essentially generate a report from Manage, clean it up, save it, turn around, re-upload it so you can see how that works firsthand. Again, again, if you may have seen it before, or like just kind of review it, or if it's new, that process, how that works. So you can kind of take advantage of the information you already have in here to make the whole updating process simpler as well on there. So again, I'm just looking at Manage homepage here. The first thing I'm going to go into is that budget sheet. So before we even get into the Manage updating part, I'm just going to pop this open here. So this is the sheet, like I said, that we send out at the beginning of the implementations. You guys probably have all seen it. It could have been a while for some people. If you have it already, that's great. You can use it to kind of, get your next year's budget going, update your budget on there as well. And like I said, we're going to make it available. So if people don't have it, or they've lost it, or they can't remember where it is, no problem. You can use this. So again, it's broken down to 4 tabs. I'll kind of focus on the first 3 mainly on here as well to have that. But basically this budget section here, this information here, this corresponds directly to the information that we're going to be updating and manage. On all these sheets here, on all of the tabs in this spreadsheet, the gray shaded cells are the ones that you would go ahead and edit in there as well. The other ones do some calculations, they do some division, subtraction, some dividing to get markups and percentages on here as well. But the gray shaded ones are typically the ones you would edit. So and again, if your Manage360 site has if your Manage360 site has multiple divisions, then you can kind of have each of these be a division for you on there as well. So that'll be fine there as well. Now, the way I was like, so in here, again, the top half, everything here, this is kind of our above the line. These are our direct costs. So again, we're using this to figure our direct costs. And the way that Manage works, again, and other overhead recovery systems, that we are going to find our 5 main direct cost components: materials, plants, labor, subcontractors, equipment. We're going to take those 5 and we're going to recover those by those costs are passed directly to our customers. So we're using this top half to figure out what are my direct costs, just to do that, my production layer, my production equipment costs, and just to do the work in this division. Now, the bottom half below the line here, these are our indirect costs. So how are we going to recover these? That's what the budget, that's what the overhead recovery component is for. I need to figure out how much on top of my direct costs do we need to recover before we even consider profit. This is all before we get to any kind of profit information. This is just strictly to recover all my costs, both direct and indirect there as well for that, right? So in the top half, like I said, the gray shaded cells, and some of them are pretty simple. Like I said, materials. What are my material costs? I can put it in here. Now, again, a side note as well, what you like, if you want to kind of if you have one division, you can make this your 2018, make this 2019, put your numbers into here, and you can kind of see how they go year to year as well. Or you can keep that on a separate sheet. But basically, my projected sales for the year, again, based on last couple years, last few years, what targets do we think we can hit? Is this something that's achievable? Like, again, based on the current conditions and things like that. Material costs and plant costs to normal, like just straight, what are my costs? If you guys don't have those broken out, not a problem. Keep them into one, it's fine. The main purpose to have them split out, or one of the main purposes, is that if you were using the Moore's system, which we'll get into in a little bit, or just kind of review, then you can mark them up differently to recover overhead. But if they're marked up the same, having them in one total is fine. Now, the labor, we do split it into the wage component and the burden component. Like I said, again, because you guys are from all across many different states, you have some in Canada here as well. We've tried to kind of put in here, these are typical burden items. Some of them might not apply to you guys, which is fine. Zero them out, change the heading, it's fine on there as well. The idea by splitting them, what we're trying to achieve here is we want to know, okay, what is my labor burden percentage? So I can use this and Manage to help determine my labor rate down the line as well. So the wage component, the burden component, total labor. This line goes in, this is the line that we put into Manage. So this is the total labor, goes into Manage as my labor direct cost. And again, just as a reminder, again, you guys probably all know this as well, but this is my direct field labor only. For guys in the field, only go into here. Now, or people in the field only go into here. If we have situations where there's someone who splits time, like they do work in the field, but they also do work in the office, then the best kind of way to approach that is to take their amounts and kind of split it a little bit. Again, there's a little bit of estimation here involved, a bit of approximation. You kind of split it so some of their cost is direct, some of their cost is indirect on there. Subcontractors, again, fairly straightforward. This one varies a lot, but I've seen from company to company as well on there. And for equipment, finally here, the last direct section here, again, we've managed just wants to know my total cost, but we use this to kind of help capture that total cost. And a part of it is the purchase. A part of this is the repair, fuel, license and registration, any rental cost on there as well. Now, when that comes up a couple of times, the purchase line here is not if I buy a new truck this year, if I buy a new skid steer, if we get a new piece of equipment. I do not put the whole cost in 1 year. This is for this year. This is the part of the purchasing cost that we're recovering. So it could be split over, obviously, 3, 4, 5, 6 years on there as well. It's not this year I bought something, next year I didn't, this goes down to 0. No, it doesn't, because otherwise you can be trying to recover too much overhead in one area. So those are, again, our above the line direct costs: materials, plants, labor, subs, and equipment. We're going to recover these costs directly by passing them through in our estimation process. How much material do we need? How much equipment? What subs are we doing on there as well for that? Now, we get a total cost of goods sold from this. Again, this is all in Manage as well. We get our gross profit. And then now the rest of the information is now on top of that, I also need to recover my indirect costs in there. So we have overhead. Again, Manage cares about this line here. We have, these are typical, industry kind of overhead items we need to consider. Again, there's a whole 15, 20. If some of these don't apply to you, which again, if you guys don't have certain things, that's fine. No problem. You can delete these, rename them, name something else that's on your P&L. It's fine on there. So we're just trying to capture or make people consider or think about, these are the things that we need to be aware of when we are trying to recover overhead. And again, as you guys are also aware, typically the biggest contributor to the overhead is often, or most likely, the salaries of everybody else. So the field staff, the field crew, we're recovering all of their costs by the estimation process. Anyone in the office, have an office administrator, people running the schedule, people doing payroll, people that designing, people like salespeople, stuff like that. All of their salary and burden comes in the overhead side. And the biggest thing is the salary of the rest of the people on here as well. So at the end of the day, we're just using this to capture the total overhead on there. And again, this goes into Manage. So like I said, just again, a quick overview on that. I'll talk a little bit as well. I'll touch on the bottom section quickly here as well in this ratios section here. All we're doing, and this is kind of industry type of averages of our costs as a function of our sales. So different cost components as a function of our sales. Again, overhead over sales, labor over sales, material, equipment, overhead salaries. So it's different components of it, and typical kind of areas where, if you notice, the ratios are really skewed. Maybe we need to look at our budget again. We could have typed something in wrong, or it could be like, no, we have to revise this because this is really high. So again, the total overhead as a function of sales. Typically, it's in that 25 to 30% range. And like I probably told a bunch of you guys already, this 9 times out of 10 on there as well, it works fine on there as well. Like I get people's spreadsheets back. It's always in that range. If it's really, really high, then it's something, maybe is this correct? We have too much overhead. Or sometimes also if it's too low, it could be that we haven't accounted properly for all of our overhead as well. So it's, again, you don't want to have it, 0% or 2%. Like too low is not to be there, because there are overhead costs, there are other costs. And if you're accurate, that's fine. But it's also doesn't mean anything's wrong. It's more like something to check on as well for that. So another example here, again, overhead salaries. This is just strictly that salaries component. So again, in that 8 to 13, 15% range. Again, like I said, most times totally fine. A couple times I've seen this pushing 30%, which again doesn't mean anything's wrong. It just is more of a red, could potentially be a red flag. Are we taking too much out? We're just going to recover a lot of overhead. That's going to raise our price of everything as well on there. So like I said, as you're filling this in, you can use this to kind of see generally our cost as a function of our sales target on there. Now, just going to jump over to the next two tabs. Just do I'll try to do a little bit quicker on there, or maybe not super quick. Just talk a little about here. So labor and crew cost tab, they work in conjunction. They work together. Essentially, what we're doing here, again, and you guys may have done this at the beginning, and so now it's a little bit easier the second or third time, but you still want to review this as well as part of your budget, because this is trying to figure out what does a typical crew hour cost me, a single crew hour. So a typical crew, whether it's mostly 2 or 3 people, what in combination, what does that cost me in wages on there as well? So again, managers are trying to generalize as much as possible, because this is for the estimating side. When we're estimating, we do not know necessarily who's going, which crew. Is it going to be 3 guys or 2 guys, 4 guys? It's just, I'm trying to use this to figure out what I should be charging for a typical man hour in there. So we generalized the roles here, a generalized labor, a typical labor. And so we're doing this to figure out our productivity ratio, which again gives us this productive hour on here. So it's this productive hour that we are going to then again further generalize as well. So typical laborer that works this many hours a year, they're on the job this many hours a year. Every productive hour costs us in wage $15.46. So we're using like 18 is an average of my laborers. If I have 10 laborers, 7, 5, again, if they're relatively close on salary, I take it, add them up, divide by the number, and then find the productivity ratio to give me this. Same thing with the foreman. So we typically split labor and foreman, because again, foreman may work more hours than not, but typically the foreman, we pay them more, or the foreman truly, they get paid more. So their cost is higher. So we want to take that into consideration when we're generalizing for a crew. Now, if I have specialized guys, if I have electricians and masons that come in and I charge more for their work, then you can definitely put them in as well for different costs. But we're doing the exact same process. We're generalizing our foreman into a productive hour wage cost on there. So from the labor cost tab, we are then further generalizing to the crew cost to be, okay, a typical 3-person crew, 3-man crew, 2-man crew, 4-man crew. All we're doing here is, again, is just doing the math. It's taking 2 laborers at this. These numbers are from that row 19 on the labor cost here. Productive hour costs. 2 laborers at $15.46. 1 foreman at this. My labor cost, and again, it shows you the formulas over here, what it's doing. Add them up, divide by 3 in this case, because I have 3 members. So this is saying a typical crew hour, productive hour costs us $16.75. This is what goes into manage into our crew types area, and then to that we apply our overhead recovery, our labor burden, and our profit margin to figure out, okay, this is what we should be charging. So you can use those 2 parts to kind of like, again, run this once at the end of the year, because if we give guys raises, if guys are now paying more, if we're paying our guys more, then our actuals are higher, but we need to make sure that, do we need to raise our rates? So does it affect our rates enough? So I put it, go through here again, kind of see if it does. If not, if it just lowers our profit again, if we're fine with that, that's okay. Or if we want to like make sure I need to raise up on there as well for that. So this is the number right here, this crew average wage. It goes into managing the crew types, and it applies on there as well for that. Now, the equipment cost, again, I'll just a quick one. I won't go into too much detail, because like this one, again, this is to help get your equipment in there. If you get new equipment, you can come and put it in here. Basically, all we're doing is breaking up the equipment cost by acquisition, maintenance, and fuel. So how much does each piece of equipment cost just to buy every 5, 7, 10 years? Like this top part is just, never mind using it, just buying and replacing that equipment. How much to maintain it, and the fuel cost on there as well. So the biggest thing on this page, if you're doing it going forward, is production hours versus sitting hours on here as well. So the crew trucks, if the usage is every day, 10 hours a day, 35 weeks of the year, depending on where you're working, that means we're billing sitting hours. So it doesn't matter if the guys drive for half an hour a day, I'm billing it all day. If I lower my usage to be more production hours, then we bill for it when we use it. And that's the breakdown there. But it's, again, like I said, you guys can review this if you have questions as well later. Like, they can let us know as well. But it's just use this spreadsheet, like, so make it available to kind of can be used every year to kind of refresh your old numbers, run them through here again. Again, if you have it another way to calculate, that's fine. Because basically what we're trying to get to and manage is my 5 direct cost components and my overhead. That's my biggest thing for my budget that we need on there as well. Right now, I'm going to swing back now to the division side and manage. So now that I have my new numbers, or if I have new numbers, where do I update these things, right? So go into manage. So again, to get to the budget, again, you guys are probably aware I'm going to go into the settings area. That's where we go here, go into settings, my company settings, in division. So this is where the budgets, and again, like I said, work with a lot of you guys to walk through, set them up, and like I said, by division. So you can do this division by division. Is probably the easiest way to do it. Do one division, you're done, then do another one. We'll do it, go into construction here. So I'm not going to go over the whole page, just go over the budget kind of areas here. So basically, this is number 1 here, the labor burden. So if my labor burden has, and again, it may not have changed. If it has changed year over year, and I want to update it, this is where I update the default. So there's 2 spots for labor, and you enter it here. Now, this is the one field. This is one of the fields that this one, when I update it, it's great for any new stuff I make. I will probably also have to go back to my crew types and update my labor burden there, because I may have different burdens for different labor rates. So I can put the defaults in here, but then I should go back to my crew types and update it as well in there. Now, the budget itself is in here. So we'll talk about like the budget itself. So again, we have the Moore's model set up. If you have, again, the process we're going to go through here, doesn't matter which of the recovery models you're using, except for none, obviously, because there's no budget, but it doesn't really matter. Now, if you want to keep these numbers, so there's a couple things with this page, just you know, as kind of things to make it simpler on there. If you want to keep these numbers, say you wanted to I want to keep them, or I want to remember them because I'm going to change them, but in case I want to go back to them, if I want to keep them, the best thing to do is to take them, you know, copy, and then open up another sheet and just kind of paste them in there as well for that. Just paste them in there so that you have all the values. You can make your own little, like, and this is just that way in case, you know, if I halfway through I forget and I don't like what's happening and I want to go back to what I had before, you have them saved. You can just cut them and paste them back into the manage side as well. So I don't want to do this, like I said, just if I did want to keep them in case I want to go back to my ones before, I can go on here, like I said, go in here, copy them, have like a spreadsheet open, and paste them, and you're good on there. So like I said, it's just basically like as a backup. I could save this that way. If I want to ever go back, what did I have here before? I can't remember. I open this up, I just paste them back in, and I'm good to go as well. Now, another thing to do on here as well. Now, if you've, like that spreadsheet that I walked through earlier, if you have that sheet already, like if you already have that sheet set up, then that's great. Then if you want to just put the numbers in, the easiest thing to do in that case is basically take the number here, like take the number, like the total, like total materials, total labor, whatever it is. If you copy it from Excel, you know, copy from Excel on here, then if you go into manage, the best way to do that is that, again, if you highlight what's there and you right click in here, you can paste it on there as well. So the typical Control V doesn't work on that page. So if you just do right click and paste, it'll update the information and then you're good to go. It'll do the recalculation. So if you have the numbers already, just paste them into here, into the right fields, using the mouse, right click and paste, and you're good as well for that on there. So that's the note. If you have the numbers, you just copy and paste. And that's typically what I do and make it simple. I don't make, you know, errors for retyping stuff. I start from the top and work my way down. Now, if you want to just type the numbers in, another option, just as a, you know, in case you're wondering on there, if you want to retype the numbers yourself instead of pasting them in, what I would recommend first is at your overhead here to take the overhead, you know, I'll cut that out of there. I would get rid of the overhead first on there. So that way, by setting my overhead to 0 here, when I do that, then I can easily type into these other fields and it's not going to cause any problems. Because what happens sometimes, this makes it easier when you're typing in numbers in yourself. Like say my material cost is now $450,000. as I'm typing it in, it's fine. I won't have any issues with that. If I clear my overhead, the overhead's typically the last thing you want to put in, because what it's doing is down here, the labor is auto-calculating its markup on here as well. So when you're filling the budget, if you're going to type the numbers in, like not just paste them, if you're going to type them in, the best thing to do, go to the overhead, clear it out, or zero it out, and then type your numbers in. Okay, my plant cost up to 50,000 in plant cost is here. You can type it in, and you won't have any issues doing that. So we're going to hit 1.5 this year, and again, maybe not 1.5, 15, 1.5 there as well. And you can fill it in. It said labor cost is now 225 as well, and have it equipment cost 150,000 in equipment. You know, and you can just go through and fill it in. Like I said, then at the end, once I get this number, what's my overhead for this year? Okay, we're a little more overhead because we have to hire some part-time help as well in the office. Okay, we're up to $300,000 of overhead. And that way, again, it recalculates, oh, my labor burden is now this on there as well. So like I said, typing them in, best, remove overhead, and then go work your way down on there as well for that. Now, for the markups, like these overhead markups, again, if you're happy with the markups, as you update your budget, if you're using MORs, or again, or labor only, or SOARs on there as well, if you're using those, the markup is going to be recalculated based on your cost of goods sold, or in this case on the MORs, based on my labor and how much overhead I have to recover. So as you're doing this part up here, your labor markups being automatically updated on there as well. Once you've got all these in, you can see what your labor markup would be. If you want to adjust these, then I would recommend doing that after you've got this set up, then you can adjust these as well. And again, changing these will also recalculate your labor markup as well. So again, and then you can see once you've done all this, once you save it, you can go into your cost book, go into your accrued types, see how that affects your rates on there as well. If it does, you can kind of see what the new rate will be, and if you have to readjust it as well on there. But again, change this. Labor is automatically recalculated. If you need to tweak these, you can. If this goes up much higher than too high for you, you can adjust these ones so you're recovering more overhead on these other items and less on your labor. Now, the last bit is the profit margin as well. Again, because they're all independent of each other and of this, you can set these. If you like the way the margins were last year, you're good to go. You don't change anything. Or if you want to think we can get a little bit more, then you can tweak these a little bit and then save them as well on there. But so the big thing, like I said, this labor, if you're doing more, it's labor markup. If you're doing SOARs or labor only, then it's automatically recalculating that as well. This thing is based on my budget, my overhead to recover, my labor cost, and my other markups as well for that. Now, once you save it, then it'll be applied to the cost book on there as well for that. So like it doesn't, again, and then there's a save and close button at the top of it. If you would cancel, again, everything just gone here it won't save anything, it'll be reverted back to what it was before. But I was saying if I had saved it, but then I want to go back, that's why I had that spreadsheet here. I can remember, what these are numbers that I had before, and I can go back to those as well on there. Now, I'll hit cancel because again, so I can remember, but nothing I'll do will save. But if you hit cancel, all the stuff I've changed will now if nothing's been applied, it'll go back to what it was earlier on there. Cancel. So it's going to go back out to that division page. So now I would go to my next division and then do the same thing based on the spreadsheets that I have as well on there. So the next thing I kind of want to touch base on is the cost book component. So we updated the budget first. Like I said, the cost of my items aren't changing. The price of my items as well, if I save my division changes, the price of my items will be updated again based on what's in here. The next time they get used, they'll based on what division they're in, they'll be updated. Now, if I need to update the cost components, again, a couple processes to do that. A simple way or not a simple way, like Joe was saying, you can do this at the beginning of the season when you get your new, you can do stuff in bulk, but through the season as well, if you notice that or if you realize that, oh, hey, we're paying more for this than what we thought, I go into the cost book, find that item, and just update the cost. That way, any future estimates will take that pricing into effect. You don't need to, doesn't have to be done in bulk. You don't have to wait till the end of the year. If you guys realize, like as you couple jobs in, or as you start getting invoices back, like, oh, this is not what we thought we were going to be paying for that, you can do that as well. So I'm going to click on the cost book, and I'll do that. I'll just give you a quick thing here. So in the cost book, we like equipment, materials, plants, crew types, subs, plants items. You can go into any of those and update them individually. Plants and materials do have some additional functionality because there's typically so many of them. So in either of those, and I'll go into materials, plants behaves the exact same way. If I go into materials, what we do have to help do this is, again, I can go into any material, search for it, open it up, change the cost of that item. So again, I would do that if we're paying more for this crusher. Go into that thing, update it that way. You have the new price in there. The thing that's on the materials and the plants that we have this common actions function here. So this allows us to change something on multiple items at the same time. Now, again, if I know that there's a plant or material, our cost is I want to increase the cost by a certain percentage across the board. I don't need to have the exact cost. I know that my costs are going up by, the supplier said they're going up by like 3 or 4%. Okay, I can go into here. Now, a very useful thing is a filter. I can filter, like if I know it's a certain supplier, find a specific supplier on here as well, and then click on the supplier, click apply filter, and then we'll only be seeing the items from that supplier. And like I said, then I can be like, oh, you know what? I need to update these. Select all of them. It tells me I got 25. I want all 400. Great. Common actions. Adjust the cost on there. Now, in the adjust cost function, we have adjust cost by percentage, which is again typically the most useful one or most frequently used one. Say the price is going up by 4%. Instead of me like go here 4%, I can adjust it by amount, or I can set a new specific cost for them as well on there if I'd like. If I do it by percentage, I click update. So now all of those items that I had previously selected are updated to updated by 4%. The cost only. The price is now also updated because now it takes into consideration all the other things as well, but the cost component is now 4% higher on all those items. So you can do that, like I said, just cost, but we also have other things where you can change categories or divisions or profit margins or purchasing tax. So this is very, very useful beyond just the cost update. You can update things in bulk as well using this common actions function on there. Now, like I said, this is good for things like you're doing in bulk. This is good for mid-season updates or just want to change prices of something specifically. Just go right in and change it. You don't need to do it a different way. However, the other function that we have is the bulk updating function. Now, the bulk updating is available in the settings, and I'll get to that in a minute or two here. But in order to update it, we need to have a CSV or a spreadsheet file with the information. If the supplier gives you a new list, great. You can upload that if it's a CSV. If the information is already in Manage, you can take advantage of the reports that we have on here. So I'll go into reports. Basically, in this cost book section here, we have a materials list and a plant list report. From this, I can run a report of specifically the materials I'm looking for, even from a specific supplier, and then I can update that cost and turn around and re-upload it into Manage. The advantage of this is that everything is named exactly like it is in Manage, so I know that it's going to find them all and update them. I've not named it slightly differently if I have an external list. And this way I can update only specific stuff that I want. So I'll go through a quick example here to do this. Again, you may have seen this, but just kind of walking through the cleanup process. Again, doesn't take very long at all. But say I want to update from a specific supplier. So I'm going to click on reports in the cost book report, go to the materials list report. Plant list, again, exact same process. So this report here, when you're doing it for the update purposes, again, you can run this also for any other time as well. In this case, I don't want it grouped in any way. If you want it grouped by supplier, you can have each supplier separately, but in this case, I know I'm going to pick a specific supplier, so I don't want any grouping. Supplier, I want to have, and I've got my supplier here, Oakville Supply. I'm just going to guys updates from them only, so I want to get a list, and then I can turn around and upload it. Now, if I can specify categories, but down here in the show section, this means what do I want to see? Now, when I'm going to upload, the status of it doesn't apply in the upload process. Neither does the price on this. So those two fields, they don't apply as far as price goes. The other ones are fine, like supplier. Yeah, I can have that. It's going to ask me division. What's the category? What is the cost? What is the unit type? What is the SKU? So those are typically things like, again, reminiscent of those sheets that we sent out at the beginning, templates on there as well. These are the things that are going to be, they're importantly uploaded. So I run this report on there as well. Now I could get rid of those extra columns afterwards as well. It's not a big deal. But this way, when I have my report, again, I have just an example. I have 6 items here. You know, this same cleanup applies to 600 items. Report runs, so I have what I need: the material name, the category, the supplier, the division, the SKU. If it's there, unit type, unit cost. So this thing will look very similar to those templates that we had sent out during implementation. Now, I send it to Excel. I can any report, we can export it to Excel. Click on that, comes up into Excel. I'll open up my report. So now, basically, this is where the cleanup happens here as well. Like I said, it's just a couple steps to clean it up, just so you can see the main things to do. Like, so when the report runs, you see there's a heading and it's all formatted like it was before. For the upload into Manage, we don't need any of that. So the key is, I can do this before, and if I want to update the cost now, I can go through, update the cost, and I'll say, okay, I say this stone dust is now $11.50. The pug is like $18.50. This is now $19, $21.75. And it's now 26. So I can take it from there. I can cut and paste, like whatever. So I've updated the cost. That's the key. Now, the cleanup part, pretty simple. Step 1, I click on the top left corner here, select everything, unwrap the text, and I click on Merge and Center to unmerge everything. So basically, that was step 1. I have that done. Now, I don't need these top 4 rows here. Again, for the upload purposes, just get rid of them on there as well. And now, lastly, I don't need any blank columns here. There's only one, like material, category, supplier, you know, division, SKU, unit type, cost. Don't need this one. B's got nothing. So I click, delete it. That basically is the extent of it. It's now been cleaned up, and now I can save it as a CSV file on there as well. Now, so that's the key thing. It's a spreadsheet saved as a CSV, which will strip out all the formatting. So when I've got it updated, under File, Save As, I'll save it on my desktop so I can find it again in this case, and I will call it, you know, Material List, Costbook, and again, whatever you want to call it, you can put the supplier name if you want to make sure that that's what we did. So, and down here, Save As, I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to choose CSV, comma delimited file. Like I said, click on that. I click Save. Now, when you do that, you're going to get a message that says you can lose some features because this strips out all the formatting, all of that kind of stuff like that. It also only saves the tab. If you have a multiple tab spreadsheet, doing this will only save the tab you're currently on. It's not a spreadsheet anymore. It's just a text file with all the information in it. I click Yes. It's now saved. See at the top, it's CSV. Now that file, Manage can understand that file to be uploaded. So I can minimize it. I can close this. That's fine. I'll leave it open for now. I'll go into Manage. I'll close this report out. Go into Settings. Click on my name. Go to Settings. Jump over here to Costbook Settings. Import materials. Now, import plants works exact same way as well. Import materials. So the first thing is, you know, what file do you want to import? Again, you can have the file can have multiple suppliers, one supplier only, it doesn't really matter. Choose file on my desktop. This one here, click it, click open. Now, before I go to upload, this in the options here. So by default, add new and update are selected. Those are the 2 most common, and I would recommend those just be on all the time. What they mean, add new, so basically it checks to see if, so this is why exporting it from Manage is good, because it checks, does that name of material for that supplier already exist? If so, then don't add it again, update it on there as well. Now, if I have a SKU number, it checks a SKU number as well. So it will do those 2 things. So these are the 2 most common, add new stuff, update what I already have. I would, again, most times I would not use this archive option, because what that means is that if I don't have it, like if the supplier for that supplier doesn't exist on this list, then it will archive it. Now, if you're just uploading a partial list and you don't want to archive stuff, then you could inadvertently archive things. They're not deleted, they're still archived, but that's what the archive does. Most times when I do this, I do add, update. I will click upload. Again, so we're not fully uploading yet. First, I'm going to read the file. Here's the file, and it's going to say, okay, this is what I found. Now, if you name your columns, this is your information here. If you name them exactly the same, it'll find them. Like, for example, SKU, oh, that's SKU, unit type, that's unit type. But because for some reason material, it doesn't like it, so that goes name. So basically, you can see it needs to know the name at a bare minimum. So material, go through a name. So this is what's being mapped to in Manage. Category, category. Supplier, supplier. Division, division. So like all those maps. Now the good thing is that you can tell it, ignore the first row, obviously, because that's where my headings are. This is good to check. I do this as well because I've done it before where, you know, sometimes you do it quickly. I map the wrong column. So I click next. This kind of shows you what it has. So you can see, okay, that's the name, yep, category, and that. It all makes sense because I've done it before. I've mapped them incorrectly. Then I have the price showing up in the wrong thing. So this is good for just giving it a quick test once it looks correct. And then we click match. So it means match all my columns together. Then it wants to know what the taxes are. Again, if you know what the purchasing tax is, you can set it here. The sales tax. The sales tax will set it. If I have anything that's non-exempt, it will simply set that item as taxable on there as well. If it's set to exempt, it'll set it as non-taxable. And then click set them up here. Last thing. Now, the fourth screen is because we have update. So this means if I find ones that match, what should I be updating? And again, if you want to update on specific things, you can clear these and only update specific columns, or just, you know, update ones that are different. Click complete. You've updated 5 materials. Again, however it tells you when you have done. Now, if you get error messages here, it's usually to do if I have blank rows in the middle or something, or sometimes if their text is wrapping. But you could, like I said, let us know about that, and we can work through with that for you as well. But that's, in a nutshell, basically, if you have the material list report, you can update it, clean it up pretty quickly, CSV, turn around, upload it. My prices are now updated. So if I go into my cost book again, into my materials, you know, 1150, 1850, 19, 2075, you know, 26. They're all, it's been updated again, and it's updated across the board in there. So you update the budget for, but again, typically the budget first, you know, get that updated correctly, get my information, go into my cost book, check out my crew types to see how my labor rate is. Then if my materials, you know, I can update them as I'm, again, going during the season, no problem, you can do that. But then definitely, you know, at the end of the season, before the new season, you can use the bulk tool to help upload or update multiple materials at a time on there. So that's kind of what I wanted to cover, or kind of, I think that we wanted to cover for today. So I can turn it back over to Joe if you wanted to any summary on there, if he wants to say anything else on there as well.
That's awesome, Fabio. Thank you very much. That was a very in-depth look at going through the budget spreadsheets, how the budget works and the process to get that updated. And then, of course, the cost book. I think the feature on being able to update en masse your materials and just going in and updating them via Excel, that's a really nice tip and trick that you're able to share with everyone to be able to do a mass update that way. I think the community is really going to be able to utilize that, and as they gear up for the season and as they going updating as they go through the season and get updated material costs. So thank you for that. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to email or call us. Definitely hit up our support team if you have any technical related issues or questions on how things work. It's support@dynascape.com. or our toll free is 1-800-710-1900. And if you hit extension 1, that'll go right to our support team.
All right. So there is one question in the Q&A here, and I don't know if like you want, I can answer. Yeah. I can figure an answer later, or like I don't know. Just it's about cleaning up the material and plan names without doubling them up on there as well. So because the question was made of cleaning up the names, like if I run the reports, if I do what I just did, if I run that report and I get it out into a spreadsheet, and then I change the names, when I upload it again, it's going to think this is a different thing, and it's going to give it a different name on there as well for that. So like I said, if it's probably easiest to, again, depending on what it is, if it's a plant, and just kind of again to get high level, just got a high level on this as well. Plants are typically not in kits, so you can sometimes dump your whole plant list and re-import the plant list. And most times that's fine because, like I said, the plant's not in kits. The issue with materials, that a lot of materials are in kits, and I can't just wholesale delete them and re-upload because they're part of a kit. So it's getting a little more important that way as well. But to clean up the names, like I said, if it's certain names, if it's the name for the name component, you can just go right into manage and clean up the name right there as well of those items. But and if you have others, like I said, if there are more specific issues as well, you can, like Joe's saying, send it through our support, and they'll get to me or Jordan as well on there as well. So Tyler, question here again: multiple items of the same name and SKU from different suppliers. That's fine. If the different supplier part is fine on there as well, you know what I mean. And you can also have this again. That should not be a problem on there as well for that. If it is, like I said, we can look at it, but don't believe that should be an issue, like because they're from different suppliers. It should be able to even they should be able to do on the same spreadsheet as well for that.
Great. Thanks again, everybody. Fabio, appreciate your time. Again, if you have any questions, definitely connect with our support team. If you are currently going through an implementation, connect with your implementation specialist, either Fabio or Jordan. And stay tuned for next week as we hit up our second webinar in the series. And we're going to be talking about configuration and settings. And during that session, we're going to learn how to optimize Manage360 for the best possible experience. The settings really are the backbone of each process inside of Manage360 and will help you understand how to use and set those configurations and settings to improve tracking and reporting options, just general use and how things should appear in the way you want them to. So join us next week, next Thursday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Everybody in the application will get a notification that the session will be about to begin. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you next week. Take care.